I'll just give you a brief introduction and the topic of today. So we're going to be talking about how to build, what sales funnels are and how to build a profitable sales funnel. Henry is an expert in that. Henry is also an expert on upmark.com. So I'm really excited to have you here because I think that's a very important topic and there is a lot of interest from our audience here. So let's start maybe with your introduction. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here. I'm Henry. I run a company called CBS Designs. It started out just by doing web design, just standard how anyone gets into web design, really. They just want to design pages. I thought that was the be all and end all. I quickly realized there was a lot more to it, especially when it comes to human emotion. So then got into psychology and started reading a lot of books about emotion and people's emotional responses to certain things, how they make decisions and how they process information. And then I stumbled on this thing of sales funnels. So I had to look at it and thought, oh, this is sort of combining the two with a bit of marketing in order to try and produce sales. So I got into really web design with emotion, which is essentially what a sales funnel is.
Okay, great. But let's dive into a little bit more. Can you describe a bit more what are actually sales funnels? Because you hear everybody talk about it and that you should be having a sales funnel, but what is it actually?
Yeah, so the term sales funnel is an interesting one. It's something that's been coined quite brilliantly by marketing agencies around the world. They've made it seem like it's this new fantastic thing and everyone must have it without realizing that these things have been around for a long time. The concept of the sales funnel first originated in the early 20th century, but it wasn't called a sales funnel. That's a modern term for it. What they called it at the time was something called an AIDA model. And I'm sure we'll go on to talk about what sales funnels are, but these aren't new concepts. So we've sort of been tricked into thinking by marketing agencies that these are complex things that nobody can master, nobody can do because who knows what's going on in the magic behind them. But once you break them down, they're actually fairly simple processes. So it's not a web page. A sales funnel is not a web page. The web page in the modern day will form a massive part of your sales funnel. But in the early 20th century, they didn't have the internet. So it couldn't be a web page. It was traditional selling through a process where you guide your user through. And that's all we're doing. We're just guiding users on a journey and we're taking them down a path that we've already laid out for them.
Okay, so basically, if you were to explain what a sales funnel is, it's more or less a journey that you want to take your customers or your future customers onto, basically to your product.
Exactly. So we start sort of early on. They don't know who we are, and really, it's about exposing human nature. I like to use this term that I got from a guy, I read a lot of his books. He's called Professor Robert Greene, and he talks about the law of rationality or irrationality, saying that the way that humans make decisions is all based on emotion. And you have two forms of irrational people that solely make decisions on emotion and people that think they don't make decisions with emotion at all. Whereas the people that are rational understand that their emotions are going to affect any decision they make. So he uses this analogy about the rider and the horse. It says that you've got this big, muscly horse beneath you who can get spooked very easily and isn't very easy to control. But with the rider on top of him, you can bring the horse under control and you can guide him in the way that you want. And that's the way that our brain works. We have this central part of our brain that's very strong. It's our emotional center. It's the limbic system. And when we see something, we get that visceral response that makes us think, oh, yes, I want this, or you're scared, it puts you into fight or flight. It's something that we've had for tens of thousands of years. And then we've got this rider on top of it, which is our neocortex, which is responsible for the information processing, making our logical decisions, but the signals from it are much weaker than they are from our emotional brain. So that's why quite often our brain gets hijacked by these emotional signals. And really, that's what these sales funnels do. They're talking to the horse a lot more than they're talking to the rider. But they also realize that they need to speak to the rider because the horse is going to be the one to say, yes, I really want to go and do that. But it's got to be verified by the rider. The rider's got to analyze and go, okay, yeah, that's what you want to do. And I can see that that's going to work. So let's go and do it. So it's about pleasing both of them at the same time. That's what a sales funnel does. It talks to both parts of your brain at the same time.
Okay, this sounds super interesting, and it's very interesting how it connects. But how do you actually put it all together in a way? How do you appeal to both elements? And I guess maybe is there a way to break down a sales funnel, and what are the elements?
Absolutely. So what I talked about first was that this concept of funnels has been around for a long time. Back in the early 20th century, it was called something called the AIDA model, which is AIDA. And that stands for awareness, interest, desire, and action. So they're the four main steps of the funnel. Now, in modern day, we've actually evolved the funnel to have a fifth step, which is loyalty and brand advocacy, because we've sort of realized that companies will make their most money when they've got repeat business. They have customers who shout about them, who constantly come back to spend more money. So that was the fifth stage of the funnel. But if we start right at the top, you have the awareness phase. So obviously, nobody's going to buy from you if they don't know who you are. So this really doesn't often come in on the website part of your sales funnel. This is your marketing campaign, your social media awareness, your ads, your Google ads, anything that just gets your name out there. You're just trying to show people that you exist. At this time, you're not trying to interact with them. You're just trying to show them that you've got something that they might want or need. And this awareness is function of what you're selling and who you're selling it to. So you're just trying to get in front of them and show, look, here I am. This is what I've got. I'm going to keep on showing it to you because I'm going to retarget you. And eventually it's just going to start to get into your mind, and you're going to pique a little bit of interest and want to take this stage further. And
how long? Yeah, how long does it stage last? Let's say, how many times do you have to expose yourself to somebody who is in your target audience or potential target audience for them to actually start recognizing you?
So now this is something I wish there was a simple answer to, but there simply isn't, because as I'm sure you're aware, you've got your different forms of traffic. You've got your cold, your warm, and your hot traffic, and each of them are going to require different messaging, different amounts of each stage of the funnel. For instance, for your hot traffic, they're not going to need any of this awareness stage because they already know you, they already love you. They might be your customers that have bought from you before. You don't need to do much with them. They just need a little bit of a push in the right direction, and that's all they need. So they often say in order to make someone take an action, they need to know what it is they're doing, how to do it, and they need a prompt to do it. So if you take it back to the cold traffic, they need to know what it is and how to do it. Your warm traffic might only need to know how to do it and then have a prompt, and your hot traffic generally only need a prompt. So these are people that are probably already sitting in your email lists and things like that. So that's the awareness phase, and the whole goal of that awareness phase is to get them to want to know more. You're not trying to sell them anything at this point, and this is where you see a lot of funnels fall down because they try and go in too early for the kill. They try and sell right off the bat of an ad to somebody that doesn't even know. All you're going to end up doing is spending a lot of money on ads and get nowhere with it. So then we move into the second phase, which is the interest phase, and this is where you've really got to start talking to their emotional center. This is where we talk a lot about benefits and sort of desires, and they need to learn a lot more about what their need is, really. Sometimes they might not know they have a need, and quite often we get to that need by asking why quite a lot. Why do you want this? And then why on that? Why? It's all about whys. And you start answering their questions. You start breaking down the barriers that they have in order to get them sucked closer into what you're doing. And you want to educate them as well. This way you give them information. So we always give information out for free because people like to learn stuff and they like to feel more comfortable with what you're doing. So the interest phase on the funnel on the website that's probably one of the most extensive phases, and it's the one that needs the most consideration about how you're doing, how you're handling your headlines, how you're handling your imagery. And this is where good web design comes into it. The use of good imagery, the use of good headlines. How's your copy? How's everything laid out? I mean, we live in this fast-paced world where everyone wants things like that. You don't want to throw a big chunk of text at somebody because they're just not going to read it. They don't have time to read it. So you want a clean, minimalistic, great headline. And that's going to be to start to develop the interest.
Okay, so before we go further, so basically, in your first phase, you just need to create brand awareness. Don't try to sell right away. Just create brand awareness, especially if you're talking to cold traffic. If you're trying to increase your visibility. So for example, let's say you have 1,000 followers on Instagram, and then but you want to reach 100,000 people or 1 million people, then you need to target them with ads, for example.
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest. But just create brand awareness, and it's more on a functional level where you're saying this is what I'm offering, and then once you create that interest, then you go into more of an engagement phase, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we've got their interest, and what I think really is, it's not even the future, it's now the present of truly great web design, is a personalization and using the tools that exist on the internet to have a personalized offering. So you have personalized campaigns, personalized landing pages, and I've just been working on a project, for instance, where we're using a form that once they submit the form, all of the form details are processed by the website, and it will then populate the next pages to include their name. It will include imagery that's aimed at them specifically, just to give that person the feeling like it is really aimed at them. It's not just this generic product. And I know people might say, well, people just realize it's on a website, but we're not talking to the conscious brain. We're trying to talk to the subconscious brain. We're trying to put their name out there so their subconscious brain recognizes it and feels more comfortable. We're not trying to go, oh, look, there's somebody on the other end of the line here talking to me. We're just trying to sort of massage that relationship a bit and just sort of create a bit of rapport by using their name. Little bits of personalization that may not win them over straight away, but it's a cumulative effect. So I think personalization is really the key moving forwards. And if websites are not using personalization, they need to work out pretty quickly how they're going to, because with the abundance of sites out there, and we've got COVID going on, which has forced everyone online, there's more competition than ever online. You need to stand out. You need to have that little edge about you that your competitors don't have.
For sure, and I think generally personalization used to be customization, and now it's really the trend everywhere is the personalization. So there I have to agree with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so this is not step number 2, and what about step number 3?
So step number 3 is it's the desire phase. So this is really where you've got to have good attention to detail, because the person you're talking to is going to start making judgments about you and your company, whether it's fair or not. They're going to make their judgments, and all humans do, despite what they say. We all make judgments, and we can't help it. It's part of our DNA. So this is where you need to really start to reinforce your relationship with the customer. So at this stage, once they've piqued their interest, you've just satisfied the horse. Emotionally, you're feeling good, and now the rider starts to come into play. Now the rider's saying, "Oh, hang about. Let's start to look for things that we don't like about this, because I need to find something, because this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to logically process everything. And the way that humans logically process things is we look for negatives. That's the way that we're designed to work. Again, it's going back tens of thousands of years. Our brain is still stuck in the prehistoric age. We're looking for that little thing that's going to kill us. Although if you're buying some, I don't know, marketing software online, it's not going to kill you, but we're still in that same mindset. So this is where you need to start answering your users' objections. And we're talking about things like your website security. Are they seeing that little padlock on the screen to show that you've got an SSL certificate? Do you have a clear shipping policy? What's your returns policy? What's your guarantee? Are you handling money in a safe way? Are you using a trusted gateway? These are all things that people are looking at that will drive them away. Even things as simple as, does your logo look smart? Is it high quality? Is your imagery high quality? Why is their logo got a white square background on it? Does that mean this is a cheap product because they can't be bothered to invest in something? So why should I invest in them because this might be a scam? It's all of these things that come up that people don't realize, that when they design a website, these are all the subconscious questions that are going on in the user's mind. They're really looking for that that escape. I mean, I like to play a lot of poker. It's a great thing. We always talk about in poker, you should always be looking for a reason to fold. You're not looking to win every hand. You're actually looking to get out of hand, because those are the hands that are going to cost you in the long run. And we apply the same logic when we're buying online. We look to get away from things that are going to cost us in the long run because we make a bad decision. We'd rather wait it out and find something that ticks all of our boxes. So,
and I think, I think this is very relevant, especially for coaching industry. We have a lot of coaches or people who are in a competitive industry. When people buy from you, they will look for reasons maybe not to buy, or for reasons if they got burned before, for example. So, and like you say, this is the moment to answer their objections. When, for example, they're saying, oh, there's no reviews, I don't know if this person is trustworthy, or they're charging $3,000. Is this really worth it? So, but then, that is this really worth it? That's the objection that you need to answer. So, for example, you're offering, you're a branding coach, and then you have a package of $3,000, which is a lot of money for entrepreneurs. And then they will be asking questions: is this really worth it? But for you, perhaps when you do create that brand, the entrepreneur can raise their prices and be also more trustworthy themselves. So therefore, these are the objections that you need to answer during that phase, just to bring it to our coaches here.
Yeah, exactly. I think coaching is a fascinating industry because there's nothing tangible at the end of it. You're not paying $3,000 for a laptop online and you're knowing what you're getting. You're paying for a dream, really. That's what it is. You sense that somebody can help you, so that's what you're paying for. Something I see a lot of coaches doing very often, which always puts me off, is they'll run offers. They'll run ridiculous offers. Everyone knows they're not true. We're offering this package. It normally costs $1,597. This month we're selling it to you for $37. It doesn't make sense. Nobody would believe that, because either the product was never worth that in the first place, or you're just trying to have them over by pretending that it was worth more. It's one of the two, because nobody in their right mind is going to believe that you're ever going to get that sort of discount. The only time you see that discount is if you're in a superstore at the end of the day and they're discounting chicken because it's about to go off. Which incidentally is one of my favorite things to do.
Oh, that's hilarious. We also have an app actually in the Netherlands where it's called Too Good to Go, where it's basically the stuff that is about to go off. Anyway, sidetrack. Sorry. Right,
it's great. Best time of day. So once you've answered all your customers' objections, they're really happy, they like your process, it comes onto the action phase. And weirdly, this is where you see most companies don't handle this phase very well. And it stems out of fear of rejection, because this is where you need to start asking. You need to ask for an action. You need to be pushing them. So especially if you're a coach that is driving people to a phone call, which I think is a very good idea. We were talking about personalization earlier, and I think a phone call is the best way to show your personal side. You're selling an expensive service, get them on the phone, get talking to them, let them hear that you're a real person and get connecting with them. But don't forget to ask for that action. It's something that we see a lot online. People do not ask correctly for the action. They just sort of try and go about it in a roundabout way. They try and ask it. I'm based in the UK, and sort of our perception around the world is we're very polite and very sort of do things right, and it stems from our sort of Victorian heritage, and we're sort of told when we're younger, be seen and not heard, and things like that. So in the UK, we've got a real problem with actively asking someone for a sale. It's a problem that's not encountered, for instance, in the US so much, but that's what you've got to do. You've got to, at some point, you've got to ask them for the sale. You've got to say, okay, right, I've done this, like, you know what this is, you know what the price is. We've talked about the fact that you were scared about X, Y, and Z. We've answered all of that. Are you going to commit? Are you going to put the money on the table now? And it's the same on websites. So when you see people on websites may try and use some very interesting marketing language on their calls to action. You don't want that. Your call to action is the one thing you've been driving to the whole time. So ditch any of the fancy wording to try and make it seem like it's cool, it's sexy, or whatever. Just get to the point. Be clear, concise, and tell them what you want them to do. And this is also where we start to talk about things like showing social proof as reassurance. So you'll often find a good call to action is always surrounded by some proof of some sort. People that bought it before, people that have been through it before. I work with a lot of coaches, especially in the fitness industry, and transformation pictures are fantastic. Testimony videos are fantastic because people can then see in these videos and these pictures what they want in themselves. So for coaches, just show off work you've done before, and if you don't have work, show off portfolio work that you've done, or you've built up stuff yourself, you're just getting started. Just show your designs or whatever you do so they can see, okay, yeah, I see where my future is now.
And also what I notice works is if you are just building up your portfolio and you've worked with a few clients, maybe free, or you've offered something for free where they decided not to work with you further, maybe based on financial reasons, always ask for a review, because people who are coming to your website afterwards, they don't know whether their review came from a free service or not. But just, and often people don't really buy into a specific service, they buy into the person who is selling, especially if you're a coach. So they were happy. Mm-hmm.
I couldn't put it better, really.
And they won't necessarily, it doesn't even matter which service they buy from you, they will, or not buy from you, they will leave you a review if they were happy with the interaction that they had with you, if it was inspiring.
I think also, weirdly, it can be easier to get reviews of those people because they almost feel a sense of guilt that they've taken something free from you and they can't pay for anything more. That sort of does bring on to a point when you are asking for these actions, is you've got to start to build some incentive into it. So whether you're giving away a free trial and you've got limited time, or you've got limited spaces, especially for coaches, I don't like the idea of coaches having an endless capacity to take people on, because you know that if they've got that they're not giving you the same effort that if they only had 10 people, they might give you a certain amount of effort, but if they suddenly have 20, you immediately know your time that you're going to have spent on you is halved. So create some scarcity amongst it, and really show people that if you want to get on it, you need to get on it now, because it's gone before you know it.
Absolutely. And then one more question I want to ask you. Do you know approximately the percentage of people that you lose during every stage?
I mean, that's hugely sort of subjective, depending on what industry you're in, how well you're doing it, how qualified your leads are to start with. I mean, if you run a campaign that you target everyone in America and you offer something amazing for free, and then they land on your page and it doesn't correlate to what you've just run the ad to, you're probably going to lose 99 to 100%. Whereas if you run a very specific targeting ad that's, the customers you're looking at, you're targeting, you know what their problem really is, you offer them something they want, they land on your page, it's a very personalized page to them, it answers the question straight away, you do everything we've talked about, you answer their objections, you have a great design, it looks professional, you have your attention to detail, you start to build some rapport, you give them all the guarantees they want, you show that you're safe, and you give them the social proof, you're probably going to lose very, very few of them. They're probably going to want to take the next step, even if that next step is only signing up for something that's free. But this will be when we come to talk about in a few minutes. Towards the end of the funnel, it's analysing the funnel is the most important part. Once you've got it built, you've got to analyse it, because it's not going to be perfect. But
I also wanted to say what you often see is people will create 3 posts on Instagram or 1 post on LinkedIn, and they don't immediately see the reaction, they don't immediately see the results or sales, and then they give up. And actually, it takes a lot of repetition to create during every stage, actually, for people to really start moving to the next stage. So I would say here, don't give up, and you will lose a lot of people along the way, because obviously not everybody who comes across your brand will buy from you, and that's okay. But maybe they might buy from you, I don't know, a year down the road or 2 years down the road, who knows? But just don't give up and keep producing that consistent content, different for every stage, obviously.
Exactly. I mean, I'm one of those buyers that there's certain buyer characteristics and traits. I will very rarely put the money down on the table straight away. I'll go away and I'll analyze things, and then I'll come back. And sometimes it might take a retargeting ad to remind me to go back and go, oh yeah. I mean, obviously the best guy at doing it seems, is Russell Brunson, and I've been retargeted something of his over and over for the past couple of weeks, and it's slow. I didn't really want it to begin with, but I'm slowly edging closer. It's annoying because I understand what he's doing, but I can't help it. I just want it.
But yeah, so retargeting ads work. So if you even if you think that it doesn't, it really does work.
Yeah. So really invest the time either in learning or getting somebody in to set up the tracking, because that's the most important part. You need to know who's been where, so you can create your audiences and properly retarget them.
So finding a good sales funnels / ads manager is key here.
It's just I mean, there'll be a lot of agencies that will say they can do all of them. Just make sure you really look into their results in each different stage of it, because it might be better to have somebody do your design and somebody else do your ads, who are two specialists individually, and then you can pull them together. And a great place to find them will probably be on Upmark, because there'll be people there that are specializing in single things and not trying to be a jack of all trades, as we call it.
Yeah. And you touched upon it a little bit, but how do you create a sale? How do you basically create a sales funnel that converts?
First of all, you need to get this very, very sort of expensive and technologically advanced piece of material called a piece of paper and a pen, and just start mapping it out. That's what you've got to do. You've got to start mapping out where your cold traffic's coming from, where your sort of warm traffic and hot traffic coming from, and then what they're going to do after that. So you want to have this all mapped out well in advance of actually building anything, paying for any ads, because this is going to tell you what you need to do for each one. And in terms of when it comes to the technical side of building, you don't need specialist software. You don't need a specialist company who have the funnels to break all funnels. I mean, I've been receiving some ridiculous things recently. What did I see? The anti-funnel hacker guide, and the whole thing was a funnel. And I just thought. So don't fall for it. You can build it on anything. You could build it on Wix if you wanted to. It will be much more complicated to do it on that because of the limitations of the software. But you don't need an absolute expert to do it. And some of the best funnels I've seen have been built on WordPress. It's a great platform. It's an open source platform. You can take it wherever you want. A lot of people think that to have a funnel, we have to sign up to, I can't remember what Russell Brunson's one's called, ClickFunnels, that's it. But for me, yeah, it's quick, it's easy to put them together, but you lose a little bit of design in it, and you lose a little bit of that professionalism about it. It's great for people who are by themselves, but I don't know. If I was trying to show a bit more professionalism, I'd want something custom built for me.
Personalization.
Yeah, exactly. Get the personalization into it, and also then you're not tied in again to a platform where you have to pay only for them, because you're there for life. Then go for something open source that you can move about. So if you don't like your provider, you can just take it elsewhere.
But I think so. We've covered really a lot here, and thank you for sharing all the steps. But if I were to sit down and if I were brand new to the whole idea of sales funnels, to be honest, I would give it a try, but I would struggle. So you guys, Henry's offering a free consultation just to understand what your needs are. I have a link to the consultation in the link tree of Upmarked account, so you can find it there, and you'll be directed straight to Henry's profile on Upmarked with his services. Henry also has lots of great content that you've uploaded that is free for you if you're registered on Upmarked. So go ahead and check it out. And I would say contact Henry anytime because you're very knowledgeable, and you're knowledgeable not just in sales funnels, but also in UX and web design. And you're also learning about ads, you said, right? So
yeah, absolutely. I'm always happy to chat to people. If it doesn't come to anything, that's fine. If I can't help you, I'll tell you I can't help you. But hopefully we can give you a bit more knowledge, and you can go away and you can feel a bit better about it. And yeah, my learning now is all focused on ads, because I'm trying to bridge this gap between having a ads manager and a web designer to start to bring more of this personalization in, so we can start to develop some really custom websites for people that show different content depending on where the user's coming from, depending on what time of day it is, all of these fantastic things. So you can really target your messages. One, I was talking with my partner earlier, she's in the health and fitness industry. We're talking about having time of day targeting or time of day headlines for some of her users. So they might land on her website at 6, 7 o'clock at night, and it will have a message like, "Oh, end of a long day. The last thing you want to think about is cooking a healthy dinner." Whereas at lunchtime, it might say, "You've only got 1 hour for lunch. The last thing you want to do is head out to find a healthy meal. You just want something quick." So
it's possible to do.
Yeah, it's possible, and it's really it's what I see the future of web design to be, because it's not easy to implement, but once you've got it implemented, it's great.
That's epic. That's brilliant. So you guys, I would say go ahead and contact Henry, because Henry's got a lot to share, and I think you have quite a unique proposition there. So thank you very much. And it's been a really great interview. So did I, and I think a lot of people also who joined us here today. All right, well, thanks a lot, and then I'll see you next time, because I'm sure it's not the last time you're here for an interview.
Yeah, it'd be a great chat when I've found something new that I want to learn about.
All right, thanks a lot. Have a good
Thanks
one.
a lot. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.